Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're offering you, well, a bit of a shortcut. We're trying to untangle the really complex ideological maze you find in contemporary India.
Yeah, we've gone through a whole bunch of sources that really map out these friction points, places where, global progressive ideas collide with.
The realities on the ground, what people actually live day to day in, let's say, Farad.
Exactly. That sort of woke city idea meets the immediate practical world.
And the core thing we're unpacking is this huge gap, sometimes it's almost funny, between the theory, the neat ideas.
And how things actually play out. What
Yeah.
works on paper versus what works or maybe doesn't work in a real community with totally different concerns, material concerns, often.
Right. And this tension isn't just theoretical, like in policy papers. It's inside people, too.
Oh, definitely. Our sources kick off with this almost perfect example, a real moment of cognitive dissonance seen in a Delhi cafe.
Okay, paint the picture for us.
So you have this young woman, very well dressed, passionately arguing that celebrating Karva Chauth is basically internalized misogyny,
Mm.
perpetuating patriarchal oppression. Standard critique.
Okay, I can picture that. But
Yeah.
you said cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, because here's the thing. While she's making this argument, she's wearing her grandmother's absolutely beautiful, traditional, hand-embroidered dupatta.
Ah.
And she's got this luxury handbag, probably from some big corporation with, let's just say, questionable labor practices. And she's checking her phone, top-of-the-line model.
Okay, so the critique of tradition comes wrapped in layers of other kinds of privilege and maybe contradiction.
Precisely. And her friend is there, too, defending the festival as, cultural tradition,
Yeah.
while planning her career in corporate law.
So it's not simple hypocrisy, maybe?
No, the sources suggest it's more complex. They just embody these contradictions of modern Indian life. It's messy.
So to help navigate this, we're focusing on three main areas in this deep dive.
That's right. First, the gap between that academic talk and actual material needs. Second, how this consciousness itself gets turned into a product, a commodity.
Right, the business side of it.
And third, this ongoing struggle between change that's imposed from outside versus change that kind of bubbles up organically from within a culture.
Okay, let's start with that first point, theory versus need. Tell us about the Caste Awareness 2.0 conference.
Right. So this conference in New Delhi, it was meant to push social justice forward, but it ended up being this perfect stage for showing the divide between the intellectual elite and the grassroots.
So who are the key players illustrating this?
Well, on one side, you had Arjun Dalit. He's got a Yale MBA, runs a startup, very successful, very articulate.
And his take?
He actually critiques the protest movement itself. He calls it, and this is a quote, intellectual colonization dressed up in the language of liberation.
Wow. What does he mean by that exactly? Intellectual colonization.
He's basically saying the language, the theories, the solutions being discussed, they're all imported, borrowed straight from American universities, American activist circles.
So they don't necessarily fit the Indian context.
Or worse, it might even be counterproductive. It's a language for analyzing, maybe, but not tailored for action in India.
Okay, so that's one perspective from the elite side. Who else?
Then there's Priya Brahman. She studied post-colonial theory at Oxford for 4 years. Very well educated.
And her role in this.
She's all about her unlearning process, documenting it meticulously on Instagram, shedding her privilege.
Okay.
But, and here's the kicker, this radical self-critique, it's happening in coffee shops where a single cappuccino costs 300 rupees.
Ah, the irony is thick there. Her critique of privilege is funded by privilege.
Exactly. It becomes a kind of performance, maybe valuable to others in her circle, but is it actually helping anyone on the ground? That's the question Arjun raises.
Does he call her out on it directly?
Well, yeah, he points out the luxury aspect. Your unlearning happens in coffee shops. My learning happened in government schools where we shared textbooks, and the only liberation we thought was passing the entrance exam. Pretty stark contrast.
So this debate is happening among the educated elite, then someone else enters.
Yes, and this is where it gets really uncomfortable for the conference attendees.
Mm-hmm.
Ramesh Jadhav arrives. He was invited to be the authentic grassroots representation.
And did he provide it?
He did, but not in the way they probably hoped. His concerns just completely derailed the academic discussion.
How so?
Well, the panel is deep in a debate about epistemological violence in traditional education.
Okay, translate that for us.
It basically means arguing that the way knowledge is taught in the system is inherently biased, maybe oppressive. It's a structural critique.
A valid academic point, perhaps. But Ramesh's
Ramesh's reality was different. His urgent problem wasn't the philosophy of teaching. It was the village school's roof leaking, no proper facilities, students needing actual safety, actual jobs, not a deconstruction of pedagogy.
The theory didn't fix the roof.
Precisely. And he said something that just cuts through everything.
What was it?
He looks at the professor debating these deep theoretical causes and says basically, look, I've been coming to conferences like this for 3 years. In that time, the tube well in my village, broken 4 times.
Oof.
But, he adds, I can now explain these problems using vocabulary from at least 6 different theoretical frameworks.
That's devastating. It just highlights the disconnect.
Completely. The conversation just tanks. It becomes painfully clear that the intellectual class is maybe better at talking about the problem in fancy language than actually fixing the basics.
So it begs that question you mentioned earlier. Who is this consciousness raising really for?
Yeah.
The oppressed or the privileged who feel better discussing it?
The source material leans towards the latter, unfortunately, that the feeling of doing something, of being aware, often overshadows the practical impact.
Okay, so if awareness itself can become self-serving, how does it become a business? Let's move to that second point, the commodification. You mentioned a committee meeting.
Yes, the Progressive Festival Celebration Committee. And the setting tells you a lot. It was held at an exclusive golf club.
Right. Not exactly grassroots.
Not at all. And this is where we meet Rahul Khanna, the entrepreneur of enlightenment. He's got an IIM, Ahmedabad background, sharp guy. He saw a market opportunity.
In what? Ethical festivals?
Exactly. Guilt-free consumption, conscious celebration. His company, Conscious Celebrations Private Limited, started selling alternatives.
Like what?
For Holi, think woke holy colors. Certified organic, ethically sourced, and 4 times the price of the regular stuff.
So you buy the product, but you also buy the feeling of being virtuous.
That's the model.
Yeah.
And for Diwali, LED diyas.
LED lamps instead of traditional oil lamps.
Yeah, technologically advanced ones that mimic the flame color perfectly. The pitch was safety, no mess, eco-friendly, cost-effective over time, all the modern buzzwords.
But how did that go down with people rooted in the tradition? You mentioned Meera Patel.
Right, she runs temple committees, very grounded in the spiritual side. Her reaction to the LED diyas was not positive.
What did she say?
She basically said, you're ripping the soul out of it.
Mm-hmm.
For her, the whole point of the Diwali diya is the actual flame lighting the oil and wick, the focus, the symbolism of fire and purification.
So the LEDs are just decoration.
Pretty, perhaps, she said, but spiritually meaningless.
Oh.
It's like keeping the Instagrammable shell of the festival, but losing the core meaning.
And this trend extends beyond festivals, right? Into Bollywood.
Oh, absolutely. Enter woke hero, Bollywood's shot at a socially conscious superhero.
Let me guess. Organic costume?
Organic cotton, fair trade, facility production, naturally.
Mm.
And he uses his NYU degree to, quote, dismantle Brahminical patriarchy between the fight scenes.
Trying to blend entertainment with a message? How did that land?
Well, the filmmakers thought they were reaching the masses. But then they did focus groups.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Specifically, they talked to domestic workers, auto rickshaw drivers, the very people the film might claim to champion.
Yeah.
They found it totally unrelatable. Worse, they felt it kind of reinforced class divides.
How so?
The hero solutions were all things like, starting an NGO, launching a big social media campaign, filing complicated legal petitions.
Things that require resources, education, connections.
Exactly. The focus group participants basically said, yeah, those aren't options for people like us. So the film ended up preaching to the choir, the affluent urban audience who already agreed with it. It didn't actually connect with or serve the community it depicted.
So the socially conscious film becomes another product for the elite.
Seems that way. It highlights the challenge of translating good intentions across class barriers.
Okay, so we've seen theory clash with need, and we've seen consciousness become a commodity. What about direct intervention? Let's go to segment 3. The attempt to reform a village.
Right. The Inclusive Festival Reform Initiative arrives in a village, delightfully named Wokepur in our sources.
Wokepur.
Okay.
And then their mission.
Gender-neutral Holi, reimagining festival celebrations.
Sounds ambitious. Who's leading this church?
Talun Mehta. He's got an MA in sociology from JNU. Comes in armed with laminated flowcharts, detailed consent-based celebration protocols, ready to deconstruct the perceived patriarchy in the festival.
And how did the villagers, led by Sarpanch Lakshmi Devi, react?
They found it completely bizarre, utterly disconnected from how their community actually works.
What was the core disconnect?
It's really about systems. Tarun wanted to impose these clean, rule-based, almost mechanical systems from the outside
To replace what?
to replace the existing, organic, messy, complex ways the community already managed things.
Mm.
Inclusion, safety, these things happen through, like mutual obligations, social norms built over time.
Can you give an example?
Sure. During Holi, managing young men who might have had too much to drink. Traditionally, older women in the village often play a powerful, informal role in managing that risk. It's a lived safety net, not a written rule.
And turn system involved.
Formal consent forms designated low-contact zones, bringing in external people as mediators. Very structured.
How did the village leaders respond to that?
Sarpanch Laxmi Devi and a village elder, Dharam Singh, they found it kind of patronizing. Dharam Singh actually asked Tarun, "Are you assuming we don't already handle these things? Do we need your permission to be thoughtful about our own community?"
Pointing out that they already had systems developed from experience, not theory.
Exactly. Systems born from necessity, from living together for generations.
So what was the outcome of Tarun's initiative?
Well, the reformed, inclusive Holi event felt managed, structured, maybe safe on paper, but kind of sterile. It lacked the spontaneous, chaotic joy of the real thing.
And the traditional celebration.
It just carried on nearby with all its messy, joyful, inclusive complexity because it was self-regulating and came from within.
So the lesson there seems to be about organic change versus imposed change.
Yeah. Organic evolution, driven by local needs like cost, safety, keeping the community together. It's slower, it's definitely messier, requires adaptation. But the sources suggest it's ultimately more sustainable, more real than rapid change forced by an external ideology.
These kinds of clashes don't just stay in villages or conferences, though. They get amplified in the media, right?
Absolutely. They become fodder for primetime debates, often forcing people into these really stark binary choices, like the classic woke versus nationalist showdown.
Tell us about that specific example.
So you had Neha Gupta on one side. She's documenting systemic injustice, citing hard data like the fact that there are, on average, 138 reported crimes against Dalits every single day in India. Powerful stuff.
And on the other side?
Vivek Sharma. He's defending indigenous traditions of reform, highlighting the social mobility that has happened since independence, arguing that solutions need to be homegrown, culturally resonant, not just imported critiques.
So, two intelligent people, both pointing to real aspects of India, but talking past each other.
Pretty much a classic intellectual stalemate. Both sides have valid points, but they're describing different realities leading nowhere.
Until someone unexpected steps in.
Exactly. This is where Rohit Das comes in. He's a software engineer from Bangalore, not an activist, not an ideologue. His main concern at that moment was apparently the cricket score.
Just a regular guy in the audience.
Yeah. And during the Q&A, he gets up and asks this question that just cuts through the whole debate.
What did he ask?
He basically said, "I don't get why we have to choose. Why can't we be modern and Indian? Why can't we fight discrimination and respect tradition? Why focus on justice and culture?"
Simple questions, but profound in that context.
Absolutely. Our sources call this the Rohit Doctrine. It captured something essential, that most ordinary people don't live in these neat ideological boxes. They want practical solutions that integrate things.
They want jobs, dignity, and cultural connection, maybe. Not one at the expense of the others.
Precisely. They reject the binary forced on them by the woke city on one side and a rigid nationalist on the other.
So what does this say about Indian democracy, according to the sources?
That maybe its real strength isn't in electing perfect ideologues, but in this continuous, messy, collective conversation. This capacity for sense-making, often led by pragmatic people like Rohit, that pushes towards synthesis, not total victory for one side. It's incremental.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, what's the big takeaway for our listeners from this deep dive?
Well, I think the main thing is that real social change in India, meaningful change, it's just way messier, slower, and more full of contradictions than any clean theory suggests.
So we need to let go of theoretical perfection.
Maybe abandon the luxury of theoretical perfection, yeah. And embrace the necessity of practical compromise, adaptation, finding ways to blend things together.
We've seen that the best progress seems to come from that synthesis, right? Integrating local wisdom, existing strengths with progressive goals.
Exactly. And critically, prioritizing the concrete needs the leaking roof, the broken well over the, let's say, philosophical satisfaction of the activist.
Practicality first.
Often, yes. Which leads to a final thought, something for you to consider. The author of the source material we drew on had an interesting background.
Oh.
Electronics engineer first, worked on missile systems for a decade, then did an MPhil in political science at JNU.
From missiles to political theory. Okay.
So the question is this: does our growing sophistication in analyzing social problems, our ability, like Ramesh, to use 6 frameworks to describe the broken well, actually bring us closer to fixing the well, to creating justice?
Or does it just make us better at explaining why justice is still so hard to achieve?
That's the question to mull over. Are we getting better at analysis or at action?
A challenging thought to end on. Thank you for joining us for